Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the wellRED Beard podcast. This is take 2 of this intro because my dog growled at the FedEx man, who I just found out delivered pasties to my wife so she can wear them over her nipples at Bonnaroo. Anyway, it's time for me to give you some dates before we get this episode started. The day this episode drops, Wednesday, June 1st, I'm at Zany's Nashville. I've got DJ Lewis with me, he of Maced in the Butthole fame. DJ and I will be doing the Joy Revival Tour all June. June 4th, we're going to be in Asheville, North Carolina at Beauty Bar. June 10th, we're going to be in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Then we're going to be at Bonnaroo, June 16th through 19th. Andy will be there with her pasties. So if that's worth $300 or however much that ticket costs to you, come check that out. June 22nd, Birmingham, Alabama. I will announce Knoxville and Bristol and some other dates soon. That's it. Love you guys. Get those tickets. For real. Like, that's the only way I can afford to pasty my family, is if you guys buy tickets. Enjoy this episode. We got Carmen back again. She's the best. Welcome to the wellRED Beard podcast. I am Red Beard. This is my podcast.
I will be playing the role of Corey and Trey as they are in the UK.
Yeah.
Still.
You want to play both roles? That'd be pretty fun. DJ's too busy, but that's something me and him talked about. Is if he just like plays Corey and Andy plays Trey, you know?
Yeah.
But then DJ and Andy would have to make out, and I don't know if I could be cool with that.
That's true. How are you gonna be able to encapsulate the sexual tension between those two friends?
Yeah, it'd be tough. I think I'd have to get my 3rd grade math teacher in here.
I don't know that reference. But...
Oh, no, it's just something for me. It's just someone I have sexual tension with. I'm thinking a lot about it for many years.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you would have to, sorry for being gross.
You're real loud.
Oh, should I go down?
Remember? You set it up for it to be there and then you picked it up.
You're right, I did that. Let me turn it down. Sorry to blow everyone's ears out.
We're working on it. We're work in progress, friends. You get it.
And you know what? That cut me off from a joke I didn't even want to make.
You didn't?
Believe in.
Okay, that's good.
So I'm glad that happened.
I'm so glad we stopped you from not speaking your truth.
Oh my God, it wasn't my truth. It was someone else's. I have to catch myself, and sometimes I speak other people's truths, you know? And that's my truth.
That's your truth.
It's not speaking other people's truth.
I believe that. I love that for you. That's beautiful.
Thank you. You know, that's something I want to talk to. This is not one we planned. I've been wanting to get into it. It's like a half-bit idea I have, but it's also like a broad topic. Which is that the internet has made it to where the worst people become the representatives of almost any group because the algorithm kind of pushes anyone who's like
drama, anything that gets clicks.
And that's like fucking with us. You know what I mean? Okay, as a person on the left who's like trying to be progressive,
sure,
that's become associated with just the worst. Don't say that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I mean, I think I blame a lot of news publications with that because they're the ones that started putting. Well, some people on Twitter are saying this, and then they just take a batshit crazy person quote. That's not people; it's just a person.
Queefer Sutherland 69.
Exactly, that has 63 followers, but now they're on CNN, so now their opinion matters somehow.
Yeah, that's a little Trey Crowder reference. Yeah, that's part of it, but also the groups themselves elevate those people. Do you know these are popular talking heads that espouse a lot of these things.
Sure.
And I think what happens is people just identify with the alleged strength of those people. You know?
Is it strength?
No, it's not.
Okay.
That's why I said alleged. It's this person's loud and has this one opinion I agree with, so I'll share it. And then they become the sort of, de facto, not leader, but spokesperson of any particular group. And it's man, perfect example is, it's such a mired controversy, but the stuff that has generally been going on with trans people now for years.
Yeah.
Whether it's some right-wing politician who's and I don't want them using the bathroom with my little girl.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Right.
And then people who aren't insane but are afraid of that. They're oh my God, are perverts getting after my little girl? They share that.
Yeah.
And now it's well, that's how all right-wingers feel or whatever. And then on the flip side of that, like I've had to catch myself and realize, like the Twitter representation of trans people aren't a monolith. Mm-mm. They have a wide range of views about, well, for one example, Dave Chappelle. I think most people are against him at this point because he keeps harping on it.
Well, that's my whole thing is like, I feel like him specifically, where it's just like, at some point, if that's like, because he was a GOAT for me for a long time, and poignant and brilliant in so many categories. And then when it started, and even just in the first one, I was like, oh, you're ignorant. You don't know what you're talking about. But then when you do 4 specials in succession and can't let it go, it just feels like it's more he's obsessed with it, Mm-hmm. And it's like, are you obsessed, or like, and so for me, I'm always curious, just because I'm always curious about people's motives and stuff like that. Is it that you don't understand? Is it that you like you can't wrap your head around it? I mean, there is like one point that I think he made that I understood and not necessarily agreed with, but when it's like you're trying to get equality for people of color of all kinds, and then trans people have like that whole point that he made, that they made way more progress faster, and it's because white people, there's more white trans people, et cetera, et cetera. I get that from understanding from a perspective of a black man. I understand that. But again, 4 specials about it. Yeah, it just seems like now you don't have really anything else to talk about.
Yeah, honestly, I regret bringing him up because the 4 special thing kind of takes him out of what I guess I'm trying to get at, because it's like clear that he's got some sort of like weird obsession.
Yeah.
Like maybe a better example is with sports, with this trans folks in sports arguments. I have like been surprised to discover that they're maybe not a majority, but like quite a few trans people who are like, we don't give a shit if we can swim or not. Can you just like please give us health care and let us like not murder us? Yeah, can we just
be a person? Yeah, can you stop killing us and let us be a person?
And the point I was simply trying to make was like, that's the perfect example of each side getting represented by perhaps the majority, but by like one faction and the loudest ones and the ones who make the sharpest points. And Twitter's very good with snark. So if you're snarky, you're going to rise up on that.
Yeah.
And the internet's kind of doing that to us. And it's not just political stuff. It's so many things. Every group now seems to be kind of known by their assholes. And again, it's like an idea I have for a bit, but it's also just something I think is problematic's the right word. I don't know, bad about the internet. I'm not very eloquent. We've had a lot of tequila.
I think it's also just annoying because then it's like, that's the other thing too, is I think it's harder. I think more and more people will watch that or retweet that or whatever, but they don't live by that.
Exactly.
I think it's a misrepresentation of people in general.
I can't live by the most angry or hateful or self-righteous tweet I retweet, or the most loving and peaceful and accepting tweet I retweet. I cannot live by either of those things. Mm-hmm. I just, at a particular moment, I was like, oh yeah, I can feel that right now.
The thing that I find annoying about that specifically is a lot of times people who are against the thing that they're retweeting because they're like quote tweeting and then responding, and it's like you're still promoting the thing that's awful.
People don't seem to get that all that matters now on the internet is clout. Mm-hmm. So any version of a retweet or a reply is helping it.
Yeah.
I don't want to say people don't seem to get it. Some people are starting to. I have noticed a lot of people being like, I won't reference it, but can we please stop retweeting X, Y, or Z? Mm-hmm. I muted the phrase gun girl. Do you remember that woman? Mm-hmm. She was a student at, I think, Kent State, which is a wild university for this.
Oh, yeah.
She would always have a gun, and she would like carry an AK around school and pose with pictures. She shit herself at a party once, and people would make fun of her for that. She was like a right-wing meme. She kind of became a right-wing meme, and she was young, and she went on Greg Gutfeld and Fox News and all that. And I just got tired of hearing about it because I was like, the left is making her relevant.
Yeah.
Not the right. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of young people.
So she just brought a gun to school and that was it?
And then she took a graduation photo with it, and it said something like, liberals are afraid of this pick. Who knows what.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Something obnoxious.
And so then people like doxed her, and then they were like, found this old story of some guy talking about how she shit herself at a party in front of everybody once.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I get why we're doing that to somebody we don't like. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to partake, not because I'm self-righteous. I didn't find it that funny. It wasn't a good enough bit.
Yeah, it wasn't good funny enough, yeah.
But it was like, oh, we made her relevant.
Mm-hmm.
The hashtag gun girl, you made her a thing.
Yeah.
Now she gets to but that was going to be so loud in their ears. I don't remember how to turn that off.
I'm figuring it out.
You'll figure it out, my love? It took me so long, Carmen, to figure out how to turn it off on my own laptop.
Mm-hmm.
And I had on the end of the Biscuit fans writing in to just be like, hey, you're killing our ears here. But here's the thing, they all gave me a different way to do it. I followed all of them, none of them worked.
You gotta love the IT advice from not IT people.
To be fair to them, it could have been that I didn't execute their advice properly.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I should not be a producer of a podcast. I am currently a producer of 3 now that Corey is gone. Well, that's not exactly true. Bubba Shot is over for a while. So Bubba Shot, the podcast, will be back for a season 2 soon. Mm-hmm. You like country music?
I like some of it. It's more old stuff.
How old?
Old, like Highwaymen old, like that kind of stuff.
That's my favorite too, but Bubba Shot is a 90s country podcast because it's about like what we grew up with because our parents were playing it on the radio. Did you like Strawberry Wine or any of that?
I liked Strawberry Wine, but I didn't like most things then because it was like, that was kind of like that big surge of like pop country that came out, which is kind of annoying. Like I like the Dixie Chicks and I like, but outside of like, but that was just because they were murdering people in their songs, and I liked that.
So rad. We did that song.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
The guy who wrote that song has a whole universe of characters that he references in other songs. So as one example, Sammy Kershaw has a song.
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll find this interesting as a creator. Sammy Kershaw has a song called Queen of My Double Wide Trailer. And in it, the protagonist he first courts the queen of his double wide trailer, and he makes her the queen of his double wide trailer.
Right.
Then he loses her. He has to get her back.
Uh-huh.
And the guy that he loses her to, and he does get her back. I don't want to keep you too suspenseful in your heart. I know women can't take that kind of thing.
I know, it's just so weak and fragile.
But the guy she leaves him for she said his name is Earl, and he's the Charlie Daniels of the Torque Wrench. Dennis Lindy, who wrote the song, is on the record saying that is the Earl who had to die.
Oh, wow. Okay. So he wanted to make reference. Okay.
Yeah, and he's done it with a few different songs. And he actually wrote the song that our podcast.
So he's basically like Marvel Universing a bunch of country songs.
Yeah.
That it's all the same people.
That's what Trey and Corey said. I went with Faulkner. Mm-hmm. Faulkner had a whole universe of people. We're all different. We all have our different interests.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's got a whole.
Faulkner's for the older people that read. I'm talking to the younger generation.
You guys don't read?
Yeah, that don't read comic books. They just go see the movie.
I love it. All right, let's get into some of the stuff we planned on talking about. I just surprised you. We've been friends. How long have we been friends? We've known each other 7 years, 8 years?
8, yeah, 8. Maybe, yeah, 8.
Yeah.
Probably 8.
And I would consider us friends, like genuine friends.
Yeah,
at least since I moved to LA.
Mm-hmm.
Around that time.
Yeah.
You didn't know I'd lived abroad.
I didn't know you lived abroad.
I've lived abroad twice. And then
in 2 places I have never been to, so
very white places. Well, one's not that white. It just depends on which part of town you're in.
Right. I
went to a whitish university there. South Africa. Mm-hmm. When I was in college, I studied abroad there. Mm-hmm. And
what were you studying? You studying law?
Politics.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was borderline irrelevant. Mm-hmm. What happened was I had plans to go, I think, to Spain when I first got to college, and I was going to take Spanish, and I wanted to study abroad. And I got all A's in Spanish. She was not a hard teacher. She had a crush on me, and I don't want to say subconsciously because I meant to, but I didn't plan it. I just took it. Like it's some part of me when I found out I can get an A or a B in this class, not do anything. I stopped doing anything.
Sure.
I still want to study abroad. My choices were London or South Africa for programs that were taught in English.
South Africa.
The way. Mm-hmm. Who would want to go to London?
I mean,
what kind of disgusting person wants to go?
What kind of weirdo?
Obsessed with colonialism?
Yeah.
The people who invented all the bad stuff?
Yeah, the people that took everything from everybody else and then didn't even use them appropriately. Like, you guys stole all the fucking spices from everywhere in the world and your food is still bland?
You guys invented racism and didn't come up with rock and roll we did?
Come on.
Who the fuck would want to go to England?
Yeah, why would you colonize everything and then not steal the cool parts?
You didn't eat beans for breakfast.
But
like a fucking loser.
What an asshole.
And
who would ever go to London?
Anybody who's interested in England is suspect. I
hope you guys listening are picking up what we're throwing down.
What are we throwing down.
Oh, I thought we were making fun of Trey and Corey.
Trey and Corey are in England.
That's right.
I had totally forgotten, and that was completely innocent on my part. I had forgotten that they were in.
I was not innocent.
England.
I was definitely making fun of them.
Oh, I was innocent. It's not something I've thought of even a little bit. Drink tequila. Hope you guys.
I don't even miss them.
Hope you guys are enjoying your breakfast beans. Well, I'm over here fucking hanging out with Carmen, which is way cooler. We're in the valley. You guys ever heard of that? There's a fucking Target a block from here.
Mm-hmm.
And also you can get tacos for $2, but they don't have tacos in England. Some bullshit ass curry.
Which was also stolen.
Yeah, curry is literally the only thing that I can think of that they stole and then did it correctly or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like I think that's weird in different because they colonized other places and stole stuff from them, but then the opposite side of that, like my ancestors went and colonized other places and injected themselves into it. As far as Spain goes. Like the conquistadors it was kind of like a combination of Viking in the sense that they raped the natives and then made them speak Spanish and believe in Christ. And then we literally raped we raped the Aztecs and the Incans and made South America. So
and blended a lot. I think that a lot of people who live in South Africa trace their ancestry back to both now.
Right.
Am I misspeaking? I
don't know.
Whereas many Americans claim that they're 1/8 Cherokee, the fact is, no, we killed most of them.
Yeah.
I think in South America, the Spanish really did start to mix. It might have been forcefully. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying it's different.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I wasn't alive to ask them. I know you think I'm older, but wasn't alive to ask them. But I do think that.
Well, I just think that
there was some consensual sex probably happening too, but there was definitely a lot of, hey, we have better weapons than your rocks.
Here's what I'm basing it on entirely. I just extrapolated all that from one thing that I do know that I have read, whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
That most Mexican people have both European and Mayan or Aztec.
Well, it depends on which parts.
Oh, they're both
Incan, Aztec, Mayan.
Have all that in their blood.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas most Americans don't have any native in their blood.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of breeding with them, we killed them.
Yeah.
This is all these words coming out of my mouth still. Instead of breeding them, what we did, we fucking murdered them, dude.
You gotta do both. You gotta just kill the ones that are really fighting against you, and then everybody else can stay.
Well, I think I've also read that the diseases is actually why, not that this makes it okay, but that we came only a few at a time, and then by the time more of us came, many Native Americans in America were dead because of diseases. We actually got them.
That was the fucking smallpox blankets and shit. It was a shitty sales deal is what it was. Is, hey, we're gonna take all this land but we got you these cool, you're gonna put this little wrapper on if you get cold.
Yeah.
Then good luck fighting with no medicine.
I just remembered year 2 of comedy. It was year 3. It was 2012, or maybe it was year 2 because we were coming up on 2012. Remember the Mayan calendar stuff?
Yes, I do remember.
And I had a bit about how I don't believe they could predict the future because they didn't reject the blankets. And when you remember JC,
well, they didn't predict the conquistadors, dude.
Right,
they didn't predict any of that.
That's what I'm saying. Why didn't that calendar say, hey, when the white man come, nah, don't trust him.
Yep, don't take nothing.
And you remember JC from Knoxville?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was doing the first time I did the bit, I had a mic from the crowd. I hear him say, almost under his breath, they were Spanish. I was like, yeah, Spanish people were white, God damn it. I don't know. I've always been miffed about that. Spanish people get away with, not being white.
I mean, yeah, I'm literally living that life.
You literally have great bits about it. I had your shirt on earlier. That was the bit about it.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's great.
But yeah, I mean, but that's the other thing too is acknowledging that. I always feel like I get it. Mm-hmm. So you just try to use that for powers, use it for good.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
I can't conquistador things.
Unconquistador.
I can't unconquistador things.
The unconquistador.
Yeah, I'm the unconquistador.
That's a comedy tour I'd never want to see. Do you remember there was a comedy tour, and I swear to God, I think it was called Races, RACES, and it stood for something, and it was like an attempt to be diverse and woke.
Yeah.
But they booked horrible comedians, and it sounded like, when they would promote it, the racist comedy tour.
Yes. I think Races was the organization. That's what it was. The Races was the organization, and it was like a great organization. It was like diverse, and it was like helping oppressed groups and et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, anytime it was like, oh yeah, we're doing a benefit show for Races. It's like, what? I'm not giving money to that. Get the fuck out of here.
And I don't know how many they did, but the one that I saw them do, either in Chattanooga or Knoxville, had terrible comedians on it too.
Which makes it even worse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, oh, now not only was it a hard sell to get anyone out, but then when they get there, they're like, Jesus.
Right.
This should be for racists. This sucks.
Especially when, and I cannot imagine how frustrating this is for any marginalized or like non-white male cis group. When someone does a comedy show, and I'm sure this is true of TV shows, music industry, whatever, and they're like, we've got to get away from the fact that this is a white male dominated industry, and they book terrible people, it's like, got to be quadruple frustrating because first of all, there's so many hilarious people who aren't straight.
Yes.
I mean, there's so many good ones.
Well, that's the thing that's like, I feel like is starting to happen, and I think that's part of the reason why you get a little bit of the backlash from white dudes where they're like, oh, it's harder now. It's just like, no, it's harder to be just okay. Yep. Yeah, that's really what it is, which is, it's a slap in the face to somebody where it's been okay to be okay, just okay.
Yeah.
And that's worked out well for a lot of people. But now you have to be good, which is like what we've had to do forever. When you just had the one female on that's what I was talking about, like just having one female on the lineup or one person of color on the lineup and stuff. You had to be so good. Meanwhile, everybody else in the lineup didn't have to be good.
I'm going to give you a little, not pushback, but I would say that the standard was great and good. You had to be really good as a white guy and great as something else.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is I do know a lot of good white guys who got very bitter.
Sure.
And they weren't okay.
Yeah, they were better than okay. Yeah.
But they weren't great.
Right.
And it was like, well, there's 5 spots for white guys and there's 5 spots for everyone else.
Yeah. Like, so you have to have the best Asian you can find. Yeah, the best Hispanic person you can find. And
I did a TV spot, like a small one in Nashville, and there was a guy from St. Louis. His name was Mike. I can't remember his last name. I always feel ashamed I can't remember his last name because he was so funny and so cool. And we started talking about JFL drunkenly because it was just being announced afterwards. And I had auditioned that year. I made it to the second round, and I think he had too. And I thought he was about to hit me with some of that stuff. And it was such a cool moment for me, just for me and him, because I didn't know the guy. And he starts hitting me with, there's a lot less white guys now. And I was like, here we go. Like, what's this about to be about? But his point was he had a good friend, an Asian comedian, who literally was told, like, you went through the last round or whatever. How about next year we also have an Asian guy? We already have an Asian guy.
That's the other side of this too. That's super annoying. Is like, it's just that goes along with like the whole, they're just picking a kind.
Yeah.
There's no thought into the kind, if that makes sense. It's like the kind of like, you're not thinking about and this is like a thing that I always like to think about as far as the show in its entirety. Even when I'm performing on a show, or someone is booking a show, like that's how I think about it, is that how the show itself is. Like, so for instance, if you have like a high energy person, you don't book somebody who's like really soft spoken after them. You know what I'm saying? So, in the same kind of vein, I feel like it's the same thing with diversity. Like, you don't book just one kind of, like, you know what I'm saying? It was just like when they learned, like, I always talk about this with Funches. It's like, oh my God, the industry learned that there's nerdy black people. Wow. Yeah. That it's not all, dudes dressed in like purple suits, like fucking, what's his face from Family Feud? What's his name?
Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey. Not every black comedian is fucking Steve Harvey or Bruce or whatever, And
no other black comedian could beat Bruce.
No, that's very true. As a person who's featured for him more than once, nobody can do it. He's a powerhouse. Dude.
There's like 10 people, and some of them are huge, like Cat Williams.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 10 people or so that I have a list of where it's like, this is a different thing. No one can follow that. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like crush, top to
Yep.
bottom. You know? And some people who have that were not cool. We're not woke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't love Andrew Dice Clay, but he murdered in his time.
Of course.
He was unfollowable.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it's just like, yeah, you can't do anything with that.
Mm-mm.
I mean, Cat Williams, who I love and who is right about most things, also has this weird bit about how he don't believe in evolution because we still got monkeys.
Well, it's not. Evolution isn't just it's not a start and stop thing. There's plenty. It's a gradient.
Doesn't matter. It's Cat Williams. One of the most brilliant people of all time.
He's also another one where he's always surprisingly progressive. He's
God,
every time he gets put in this like position to like just dazzling, just amazing. Like and I don't know if that's like an ignorance on my part. Like why wouldn't he be? But it's just like
because he's old.
Yeah, because I think that's what it is.
And I'll say and from the South, and comes from a community where on certain topics, like it's hard to be that.
For instance, and like a lot of the from the Baptist upbringing, then there's like way more homophobia. I get all that, yeah, for sure.
And that's not like that. Me too. Me coming from the South, I was raised in a place where getting to that point is rarer.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially somebody that age.
Yes.
Can you imagine if there was a white comedian his age who hit on his level who was like that? Well, I mean, in some ways it's Pepitone, and the world is just catching up to Eddie. Like, I love it. I go to his shows.
More and more people. I'm
there
just so
are
glad he's
so many 21-year-olds at his show.
Mm-hmm.
They love it because he's like dark and ironic and angry.
Yeah.
And it's
but also there's also a whimsy about his anger. His anger isn't it's not righteous anger, and it's not ignorant or hateful. The anger is silly.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. It's finally being able to see somebody rant that doesn't have any kind of like malice on the back end.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
he's so brilliant.
I love him. I think he's brilliant. Oh, so brilliant. To get us somewhat back on topic, but segue from that. England is sort of catching up to us in stand-up. No one else is. Australian comics, I don't mean to shit on them. There's some very funny ones, but their best is our B team.
Well, to be fair, this was our art form.
It's going to take a while.
But I think you're right. I think the UK is starting, and there's way more places. Great. Yeah.
I forgot her last name. Their last name. Forgot their last name. They're great.
Oh yeah, I don't remember it either.
Although, now that I'm thinking about it, they live in London, but they're from either Canada or America.
Oh, okay.
They have American accents.
Well, yeah, and there's also, like, way more places, and I think because of the pandemic, too, like, way more people were able to perform over there than here. Just because they took the pandemic seriously for longer, and then they were able to perform sooner. And
imagine how that works, stand-up comics.
It's crazy. Wow, it's so crazy how that works.
I'm so white, my face is blown out by that.
It's going to be okay.
I got cancer. Wait, that's what that is. You know that, right?
No, I thought you just got in a really cool bar fight.
No, they dug it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you knew that. Oh, damn, we didn't talk about that. Well, they all know. I've done a bit about it. I posted it.
All right.
Some good numbers.
I'm sorry I missed that reel, bud.
I sent it to you. You know it is. Whatever, you know. It's on HBO. Untitled. I did it French. Why did I?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, because
speaking of being a conquistador, I did spend 2 weeks in Spain recently.
Yes, that is what I wanted to talk about. Thank you.
You're welcome. And
do you go regularly?
It's the place I visited the most for sure.
How many times have you been?
I've been 5 times.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I have family there.
Okay.
So I think the first time I went was the first time I went when I was a kid, maybe? No. 06 was the first time I went. And I think, I've been 4 times now. 4 times. But I've gone to all the
Carmen works for the CIA. Parts. That's what I'm gathering here. 4 times, 5 times. I've been for 2 weeks. Listen, I'm in Spain. I got a passport. Who's asking?
But I got a family there. You know, it's also like I want to know where the source comes from because obviously we talked about this conquistador. They visited the islands too. I don't know if you know that. They thought they were the West Indies.
Yeah.
But that's not where India was.
I heard about that.
Yeah, did you hear about it?
Mm-hmm. You said you wanted to visit the source. Did you kiss the ground like Oprah when you got there?
No.
The motherland?
Mm-mm.
Madre?
No.
Mm.
But I do like it. I do feel...
Could have been a cool reel.
It could have been. But I did like it. I do like it there.
First time you went, how old were you?
21 or 22.
That's a cool age, in my opinion, to go abroad.
Yeah. Just old enough to drink.
Yes.
You know?
And like kind of know about yourself in the world, but not really.
Right.
You're like so open.
You can be influenced by it.
You can totally be influenced, but if you're 16, like you're mush. You know, you're not bouncing off this new culture.
Yeah, it's like bringing a newborn to SeaWorld. Like, what's the point?
Yes. Whereas if you bring a 4-year-old to SeaWorld,
oh my God,
like,
blow their mind. Cartoons are real. Yes.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. Damn, it's almost like you're a comedian who does analogies. Okay, so who were you with? By yourself, with folks?
No, I went with this. It was like a friend of my aunt. It was kind of like a boring white lady teacher that she used to travel by herself. Very high strung. There was a reason she was in her 40s and had never been married type of situation. Maybe. Okay. She did have I'm certain she was like questionable to some people. Like I don't know if she'd ever like worked that out. Yeah. But she give those vibes at the very least. Bi.
Or maybe asexual.
Maybe asexual. But no, she always talked about how she wanted to be with somebody, and she specifically men, but she was also like so regimented. I could see that it would be difficult to find someone that would also adhere to all of her, like, she'd have been alone for too long, I think. So then she was very set in her like
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a reason a lot of people stay together.
Yeah. Where they're like, you know what, I don't want to learn anybody else's shit.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
If I ever fuck this up with Andy, I don't think I'll ever get married again. Never, dude. I'm not saying I won't fuck, but like I'm not getting married.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Love is a lot of work.
Anyway, I want to get back to your trip.
So yeah.
So was she like? I'm trying. You said she was.
She wanted to go to Spain. She didn't speak Spanish, and then
Did she pay your way because you
she had points. So she was like, if you come with me, I'll use my points. Yeah. So my round trip ticket to Spain when I was like 21 was like $57 or something like that.
That's like when the rich people would take a handicapped person to Disneyland. So
yes, I was the handicapped person. Without question.
Oh, yeah.
And
did you have to spend most of your time with her because of that?
Oh yeah, we spent so much time.
But we went
for 10 days. I think we went for 10 days,
yeah.
And then to change my flight was like another $50. So then I just stayed for like 2 months.
Oh, that rules, and I got excited because I did the same thing both times I lived abroad.
Mm-hmm.
I was very much an outlaw in Australia, but we will get into that. Mm-hmm. So you stayed for 2 months. Did you stay in with family?
Yeah, I just stayed with my cousins in Spain, and then I would go. I had bought this Euro Rail pass, which was like $300, and then but I could use it as much as I want. It was like a unlimited access, so I paid.
And the EU was in full fledged in 2006, meaning you could go anywhere if you wanted to.
Sure, but I just went. Mine was specific to Spain.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
The pass I bought was specific to Spain. So then I would just, whenever they had to work and shit, I would just go to a train station and then that word looks cool and then go there.
Fuck yes, I used to love to travel like that.
Because that was the whole thing. Is she was so regimented. It was like she was like going by like a travel book and all that shit, and one of those fucking things. It was boring. I get it. It was, I don't know. There was plenty of cool stuff that she wanted to see, but it was almost like being on a tour in that like, okay, we only have 2 hours to do this, then we have to move on to the next thing. And that's not me at all.
And it's cool.
Even at 22, I was like, I want to go get hammered with these people I just met this week. I wanted to do that because that's what ended up happening when I went to, after she left and I stayed longer. I went to where my family's from, which are pretty much the hillbillies of Spain. No bullshit. Yeah, the northern west coast of Spain. It's called Galicia. Is the province. All rural as fuck. All like
Can I say this is the first time someone's told me a story sincerely about rednecks or hillbillies, and it was in the north. I've had this weird thing where almost we've talked to people about Finland, we've talked to people about rednecks in France. They're almost always in the south. I'm excited they're in the north.
Yeah.
But the north is on the border of France. Am I incorrect?
There's the river's there, so it's closer to Portugal.
Okay, cool.
On that side, yeah.
The man. Sorry.
Yep. So I went over there and I just met a couple that lived across the street from my family that lived up there.
Did they like your vibe?
And they did like my vibe, but not like that. He was Romanian and she was from Spain. And when they met each other, neither one of them knew each other's language. And they were married and had a kid.
My papa did that.
So crazy.
Go ahead.
Wait, what happened with your papa?
He was in the war and he couldn't speak Italian. He was based in Trieste, Italy. And he got with a woman and they were together for like 6 years. And they eventually, over that time, learned some things. But when they met and he had a kid and he had to leave her, the army wouldn't let him marry her because of the fascist party, Mussolini's party.
Yeah.
He wouldn't let you marry any Italians. And I don't think he wanted to be honest. And he left him. And then she put his daughter up for adoption. And then she got in contact with him like a decade later and like would write the family and write my Aunt Connie, who was technically her younger sister.
Wow.
And I always told him that I would go over there and like find her. And I'm just remembering this, not for the first time ever, but like for the first time in a few years.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go do that.
Yeah. Let's go to Italy.
Yeah.
Fuck
yeah, dude.
Because that's the other half. That's the other half of me. So it's like, I always wanted to go to Spain because I wanted to see where, I came from.
Yeah.
So Italy's the other side of that.
So you were going for 10 days, then you and your family get along good. You end up spending 2 or 3 months.
It's amazing how well we got along. Like my cousin and her husband, like I love my family, but I connected with them on on a soul level.
Fuck yes.
And we just kind of understood each other. And even though like my Spanish then wasn't that great, we would talk about politics and like the difference. One of my favorite things in this last trip is my cousin always goes, because he loves North America. He loves Americans. Yeah. He loves America. And like he's got a Marilyn Monroe statue in his house. Like he's got like a fucking curio of like John Wayne little action figure guys. Like
not me, but pretend other people don't know what curio means.
A curio, it's just a place you would store. That's kind of like a curio if you have like a
shelf.
Yeah, a series of shelves with a door and that's glass you could see in it. A good place to keep
China cabinet.
Yes, but yeah, sure.
But not
yes,
because that's
curios are usually skinnier than a China cabinet.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, go ahead.
But I love traveling outside of the United States because if you're not too American about it, you can learn about how the rest of the world kind of sees us versus how we see ourselves from within,
Totally.
Kind of like you ever go out to lunch and then you see a couple fighting and you're like, oh, that the problem is right there. You can just see it because you're not emotionally invested in it, so you can easily see the problem.
We're going to talk more about that when we come back after this break, which we have been totally forgetting to do. I don't know if you guys listened to last week, but we had to force those commercial breaks in because it turns out Drew is not great at producing podcasts when they have commercial breaks. We'll be right back.
And we're back!
We're back!
We're back! So, like I was saying, my cousin, right, loves America, and he always likes to talk to me about what the fuck is wrong with us, right? He, because he likes to people shit on America and he likes to defend it, and because he likes it. Yeah. So he gets mad when he has a hard time defending it. So he's like, I don't understand why, because the problem, I think part of the problem is like what they're showing over there is all reality television. It's old movies and reality television, and what an awful representation of what is here. Mm-hmm. I mean, sure,
John Wayne and Snooki.
Yeah, exactly. Old movies and fucking Jersey Shore, or the weird sword competitions and just all the cheap TV goes over there.
Are you disparaging weird sword competitions in my house right now? Because
I just mean it doesn't represent the entire country, is what I'm saying.
You damn right, because they can't keep up with us outside the South when it comes to weird swords. We got the best ones. Don't represent the whole country at all.
But one observation that he made that I absolutely adored, he's like, I don't understand how people can have a shitty house and then the only things that are ever improved are their televisions and their refrigerators. Those are the only things that ever get big. Like they will have a house full of furniture from the Kennedy administration, but they have like 1,000-inch television and like 3 freezers. And it's like, it seems like it's the only part of their house that they want to improve. And I was like, oh my God, what a weird observation that is acutely accurate.
Well, that new TV won't play the game. Fucking high def, so I think your cousin needs to chill out on that. I mean, to some of that is, because I've seen this coming from, I guess, like coastal elites, for lack of a better phrase, towards when they see like pictures of like a kind of boxy modular home, not a mobile home, but a modular home with a very nice car in the driveway. And it's like, yeah, one of those things is expensive and the other one is out of their league. Like, do you know what I mean? Like now your cousin's making a fair point because they could afford a new couch.
Sure.
That's they can afford a new TV. But I do think in America, people outside of America don't understand that our stuff is cheap and our housing and our land is not.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like being on top of the world hegemony for however many years we have been, that's what it's led to. This nightmare where you can afford a phone that would make people in Europe salivate, probably.
They literally, they were like, when I would go, there's like certain places we went to where there's just like a lot of people that pickpocket and shit. They're like, oh, don't let them see that you have an iPhone because it's $2,000 over there to have an iPhone. Yeah. Right.
And there's no program or sign up for this.
Yeah, you don't get it for free if you just get the last year's model or whatever.
But we can't afford to eat well.
Right. That's one thing I loved over there is you could be a poor person and eat amazingly. And I'm not saying that you would be eating steak all the time or whatever. I'm saying just the good quality food. You can eat good food and eat healthily and at every level. Because that was the other thing he asked. He goes, why do people in America eat so shitty? And I had to explain to him because, like, health is classist here, essentially. Like, if you want insurance, if you want to go to the doctor, you have to have money. You have to have money. Yeah. If you want to eat organic, because you don't even have to worry about organic in Spain, because, like, you're like, oh, these potatoes are from that fucking guy right over there. He makes them.
Yeah, and they have rules against a lot of that stuff. I mean, there's so many
that's so much food that's here that you
that are banned there, and even in parts of Africa. When I was living in South Africa, like, I noticed that the chicken was smaller, and I asked someone about it. I was like, this is a weird question, but like,
why are the chicken smaller?
Because they're not pumped.
Yeah, because they're not jacked.
Full of, and they're not allowed to.
Yes.
And that's, it's like such a wild thing to process that they're just allowed to.
I get in arguments with my dad about this stuff because, he's like, he talks about how, like, GMOs were, to fulfill a need and more people, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, but here's the thing is if 1 year, if we don't have enough fucking cows, I'm okay with not having steak all the time because we don't have enough cows, more so than I am. I have to worry about what drugs you're giving the cows so we have cow to eat. Like, I'd rather just because then guess what? Then it's the treat like it's supposed to be.
It's also not such a black and white thing where you go, well, GMOs were invented. It's like, sure, arguably, never mind. I was going to do an analogy with police, and I was like, actually, police were just invented to fucking collect slaves. So never mind. Let me back off that. But like, whatever government institution you hate, it's like, all these things were created for a reason to fulfill a need. But now they've gone the way of everything that's capitalism, where it's like, now it's just to make the most amount of money.
Yes. It's greed. Greed is everything that's wrong with our country. I mean, in a capitalistic society, it's always greed.
Which is wild when you think about one of the most absolutisms in the Bible is that the love of money is the root of all evil. Like, you won't find...
know what? Jesus and I finally agree on something.
And so few Christians in this country fuck with that mentality. And I realize Christians are hypocrites generally in the evangelical world and all that. But it's just wild that that's an absolutism in that. Like, the Bible, I mean, it does have a lot of absolutisms, but it's like, it's right there. You can't... The love of money, root of all evil. And then you go to these fucking preachers. You need more money. And here's how you get it.
The Lord said I need a jet. So the Lord came to me and he said, do
televangelists exist in Spain?
Definitely not like here. No. Yeah. I mean, there's cathedrals everywhere. So, and I was there.
The church doesn't allow like televangelism in general, though.
No.
They allow you to rape little boys, but
that's the whole thing. They don't want so much press that you're just going to find out that more easily. Right. It's harder to shuffle people around when they're in the limelight.
So it's not perfect in Spain.
No.
Catholics are still there.
There are Catholics there.
So how many times you've been back? 3 times since then. Do you always stay with the same folks?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I love them. They're my favorites. So of course. I just go to different parts every time.
Yeah.
So I've been all around that fucking place.
I want to go. Andy and I have been talking about going to Spain, honestly, for almost 4 years now, because we started talking about how we were going to go, and then the pandemic hit, and you know what I mean? I was like putting it off because wellRED was touring heavily, and it was like, we're going to go, and we were going to go the first year of the pandemic. It hit in March. We had plans to go that October.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a good time to go, fall. Fall's a good time to go, yeah. Spring and fall are the best.
In Barcelona.
Barcelona, yeah. Which is also that they're having like a weird kind of situation in that like the Catalonians want to like separate from Spain, which is kind of like a.
So they do have a Texas.
It's kind of is a little Texasy in the sense that they don't have any history there.
Right.
Whereas, like, for instance,
our Texas history is very Spanish.
Yeah, it is.
So they're trying to get Texas back. They're still mad about it.
Well, that's the other thing too. Is like there was an uprising like for the same kind of thing with the Basque country, but they had their own language. They had their history there. They were there before the Spanish colonized that area. Like, at least historically, I understand why you would want to have your own, be separate. Yeah. But these guys in particular, I don't understand why. Yeah. And they're going about it in a kind of a shitty way. So it's like, there's...
As opposed to the good way to secede?
I mean, is there a good way? Like,
I don't know. That's what I'm getting at. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if there is or not. I mean, but I'm just saying, like, if you were here before you were Spanish, if you were here, pre-conquistador, I understand why you would want to be like, hey, it's just kind of like when you think about like the things in the middle, like that, the Azerbaijan and like, what's it called? Oh my God, Armenia and all that stuff. Like, where it's like, for me personally, I was like, well, if who was there first? Who took over who? I understand if you would want to be yourself again, as long as, as long as it's not gonna like, because, yeah, I guess that's what it is. Where it's like, they don't have any of that historical context in the sense to like justify just all of a sudden we want to be separate.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it about freedom? Is it about like, don't tell me what to do? Is it about taxes? What's it about?
Yeah, I don't know enough. I didn't look at it.
Yeah, you just spent a few days. Yeah. You've been all over.
Yeah, I didn't.
Your cousins aren't into that, whatever it is.
Well, I mean, to be fair, they're biased because they're Spanish, so yeah.
Right, they're against it.
Yeah, they're against
it. This is bullshit.
Mm-hmm. But then, like, I remember the first time I went, like, there was a terrorist organization called ETA, that was, like, they were the ones in charge of, like, the Basque people trying to separate and stuff like that. And we would talk about that, and, like, they were pretty neutral about it, whereas, like, yeah, I get why they want to do that. I don't know that bombing places and murdering people is the way to do it.
Right.
But I could understand why, where this is just, like, all of a sudden they want to be separate. Just kind of out of nowhere.
It's kind of like that. The Basque thing is kind of like the IRA a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, well, we get it. You've been conquered, but maybe stop blowing up.
Yes.
I mean, far be it for me to tell people to stop blowing stuff up at this point in my career when I've been saying everybody should blow stuff up for a while. Mm-hmm. Let's move on from that. Okay. Is that the only place you've been abroad?
No, I went to South Korea and Japan.
Yeah.
It's all military tours though, so it's like.
I know you military tours.
Yeah.
When did you do military tours?
A few years ago. Obviously pre-pandemic.
I missed that.
Yeah, me too.
Was it a few years ago, like pre me really knowing you?
I think Obama was in office.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's 8 years, so I don't know.
Long time. Window.
Yeah.
Ask my dad. It was forever.
Or wait, what was? Yeah, I think it was after I knew you. I think it was like 2015 or 2016.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm.
How was that? Surreal?
That was rad.
On a military base?
It was rad because I went to places I would have never been. I would have never went to South Korea. I definitely went to the Pittsburgh of South Korea, though. It was not the prettiest part. It was just like a real industry.
Shout out Pittsburgh. Nothing wrong with Pennsylvania. We love Pennsylvania. You've got every kind of white person except for good looking.
But I just meant in the sense that it was like or maybe like a Detroit where it was all industry. It was all like factories and shit like that. Yeah. So everything kind of had like a layer of dust on it or soot. So it was kind of like,
You guys heard it here first. Carmen hates those dirty Koreans.
No, it's no. That's not true. Just that city in particular. And I liked the people. The people were cool.
It's just dirty.
The city was just like
Yeah, it just wasn't. You're
just
at a military base.
full of.
I would say
right.
we would compare it to something here, but there's no countries that have military bases here. It's only a thing we do. And China, we in China, I think, and now Russia are the only. Russia makes a place where they put a base part of Russia. Like that's their move.
Yeah.
Us in China, I think, are the only countries that have military bases in other places.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's wild to think about that, right? I've never been to China, never been to Korea or Japan. We thought about going to the Japanese World Cup. Andy's family's had quite a few exchange students, and one of them, who's close with her brother Adam, Japanese. We talked about doing that, but never came to fruition. I've been to South Africa and Australia, lived there, and I've been to Europe. I've been to, where do we go, baby, for the honeymoon? Germany, Prague, Amsterdam. I think that's
the Rhine River.
And I've been to Canada. And I think that's it for me.
Yeah, I liked. I want to go other places, but then I'm always like, I'm gonna go have the time of my life with my cousins in Spain, though.
Yeah, why would you? Yeah, I've considered that when we've talked about traveling abroad. Like, we were gonna go to South Africa. Actually, I've been to a few other countries in Southern Africa, around South Africa. But we were gonna go to South Africa right before we got married for World Cup. And then, my brother murdered a guy, and it was a whole thing. And then I was like, I'm not going to go. And we turned the credits that we had with the airline into what was our honeymoon in Europe. But the reason I brought that up is I kind of know what you mean, where you're like, I want to see more of the world. But I'm also kind of like trying to get back there to these people.
Yeah.
Because I made some pretty cool connections. Like my friend Luke, who was universities outside of America, like, the house you live in operates kind of like a frat house, but you don't pledge it, and there's not as much like toxic cultures associated with the fact that you lived in Winchester dorm, but that's the dorm I lived in. And for lack of a better comparison, the president of our frat, Luke, now owns a big game reserve just north of South Africa in Zimbabwe. And he's like, anytime. And like, it's catered to very rich Europeans because his wife is European and she has some connects there. So it's ridiculous. Yeah. It's like a 5-star resort. He's like, yeah, man, we'll just fucking, you can stay in the house with us, but then you can eat at the restaurant and all that. It's so tempting to do that. But then if I'm going to do it, I kind of want to go somewhere else, Sure. But then you have the added thing too. It's not just like people. You're like, it's family. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's family that like, they get me on a level. Like I almost didn't go. It's funny that you brought up your brother, because it's like I almost didn't go to Spain because like 2 months before my sister had just passed away.
Right.
And it was like I had like this weird kind of like I felt like I wasn't allowed to go have a good because I booked the flight, and it was like one of those I do the Scott's cheap flights, so I get updates anytime, and I have Spain as a destination to get notified anytime. So it was like my round trip flight was like $500. Yeah, I think it was like $560 because I had a bag. I checked a bag or whatever.
I need to call Scott.
That's what I'm saying, dude. It's I always buy because there's a free service and then there's a paid service, and I think it's like $50 a year. But every Black Friday they do half off, so it's $25 a year. And then you specify what airports you would leave out of and what destinations you want, and they'll send you. I mean, they send you a lot of emails for a lot of places, but you don't have to be a rich person to travel the world. And like, that's like one of the things that's been like a nice little cheat for that. Yeah. So I wanted to go see my cousins because I went, 2020 or in January of 2020, I went to Spain and spent
right before.
Yeah. So I was there for probably 12 days, 10 days or something like that. And, it was the same kind of thing. A buddy of mine wanted to go. He didn't speak any Spanish, and I was like, well, I'll go. And then, of course, he had the time of his life because my cousins are fun as fuck. And then he was going to try to go with me this time because I said I was going. He's like, I want to go. But, yeah, so, with everything that happened with my sister, I had just been there kind of for my mom, like literally and figuratively kind of helping her go through all this. And so it was kind of like a crippling amount of guilt where I was like, she's miserable. It's selfish as fuck for me to go and have a good time,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so it was kind of weird. Yeah, it was weird. I didn't know how to, but then I kind of had like a talk with her, and she was just like, I want you to go. Like, I don't want you to be in this, you know, I don't want you to be in this.
Florida.
I mean, you know, in the sadness, but yes, also Florida. Well, because being in Florida was fucking killing me too. So it was like, I think she knew that I was just repressing everything to kind of be there for her. So I think she knew that it was going to be a break, and I needed her to tell me that it was okay for me to go. And then I went, and it was amazing. And like I said, my cousins are so cool that, or it was my cousin's husband, like in the middle of us, like being fucking almost just drunk after an incredible, because that's the other thing too. All we did was walk around, eat, and drink. That's it. That's all we did. And I was never like drunk. It's never like the point to get fucked up. Yeah, we're always moving. He's snacking. Yeah, having a good time. No, it's always cocktails. And it's great. It's a completely different way of enjoying yourself. Whereas, like, you know, America, avalanche of abundance, right? It's all of the things. Yes, exactly.
You gotta win.
Yeah. What are we winning? What are we winning?
Dude, I've won being drunk so many times, and every time I actually lost.
You know exactly. I mean? Yeah.
It's like, it was a good hour where I was like, I won, and then like later I was like, oof,
it feels like losing. I won, but I feel like I'm losing still. But just in one moment, because he didn't really even bring it up. He was just like, hey, I want you to know that I know that you're sad, that it's okay, and I don't want you to feel like you have to pretend like you're not, but I just want you to be able to have a break from that too. Oh. And it was kind of like acknowledging a thing that we, you know, just hadn't spoken about, because, you know, when she had passed away, they hit me up and were like, this is fucking, you know, they met her once when they came to visit. They met her once when they came to visit as well. So it was cool. It was just what I needed to hear, and it was brief, and it was perfect, you know. And then we went back to having a good time, and it was, you know, it was just kind of like a thing that was just acknowledged. Where, yeah,
it's so, I don't know, I guess beautiful is the right word, that you've experienced traveling abroad in so many different circumstances. Where you went with that weird lady. She's not weird, but the trip was weird.
She was kind of weird. She's
pretty weird. And then you stayed over, which I love. I love that move.
Yeah, because she was going to say, but I was like, man, I would have way more fun if you weren't here. And then she left, and I did. There's
so many cool international stories, where the love story, or the great sex story, or the wild thing, you know, like, well, I met Nelson Mandela, whatever it is. My favorite international story is always, it was like going to be 10 days, and then a year later, I finally came home.
Well, I was going to, no bullshit. The first time I went, I was going to stay. I found a job in in a different province, right next to where my redneck family lived, right? Or my hillbilly family lived, because there's mountains, so more hillbilly. But right above that is A Coruñas, which is a different region, but it's close. And they needed an English-speaking tour guide, and they gave you a per diem. They put you up. Like, it was just like, I would have been fucking set. And I was like, oh, dude, I think I'm just going to stay. Yeah. And I told my mom, and she cried on the phone, and I was like, fuck. And then I didn't do it. Yeah.
We've ran the gamut on your mom now for being super supportive and sweet, and then holding you back a little bit.
Yeah, it's both.
It's been both. It's been both.
Well, she was just like, you know, I was also like 22, and her baby just went out of the country for the first time.
Did she ask you not to, or did she just cry?
She was upset by the idea of it.
That's a little on you.
No.
Not that she was upset that you didn't say.
She expressed that she didn't want me to do it.
Oh, she did say.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was asking. If she just got upset, or if she said, "I don't want you to do it."
Plus, I had just started doing stand up, so like I was on the fence. So I was like, "Yeah, I wanted to
be in America."
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. Now I still think about it. Like, I still think about it now, where I'm like, maybe if and when I make good money, I'm gonna buy there.
Yep. Yeah. I think about that too. The places I've been. I stayed both places. In South Africa, I had a student visa. It was like 6 months or 5.5, whatever it was. And I just stayed. I changed my flight and just stayed. And when you're there, they can like write you a letter, and they can allege that they're going to come find you or whatever.
Right.
But they can't. Like you're supposed to leave.
Mm-hmm.
So if you cancel your ticket, it's not like they can be like, no, you got to get on that flight. It's like, no, I got this other flight, and I'm going to leave. So I stayed extra there. That has traveled. It was a very fun time in my life. It was the only time in my life where I've kind of been rich, because at that particular time, the dollar was crushing it compared to the rand so much.
Mm-hmm.
I put everything on a credit card. When I got home, I had $3,000 in credit card debt that I paid off working for my aunt the next summer.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot.
That's the best $3,000 you ever spent.
And I cannot begin to express to people how much I got to do on 3. I got drunk all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I ate steak frequently. I went on many trips, safaris. I didn't like dive with sharks, but I went with my friends when they dove, which I just didn't have any interest in that because I hate sharks.
Mm-hmm.
I did all that. Wine country, all that.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah, that sounds rad.
It was so fun. And then Cape Town, went a trip to Cape Town. It was supposed to be 5 days. I ended up staying for 3 weeks. This was in the middle of the semester. Got bad grades for a little while.
Yeah, you're enjoying your fucking life.
Dude, Cape Town is behind like Milan and Paris, has the highest concentration of fashion models in the world. I didn't know that when I got there. Sure knew by the time I left, though. It was...
Isn't that where there's like a huge disparity in wealth as well?
Cape Town, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's where, the fashion models are, and like a lot of international money has come into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the downtown Cape Town is one of the, it's like basically a European city in terms of the wealth and the things that they have. And then, on the outside of town, on the other side of the mountain is shanties.
Yeah.
And that's something you have in all of South Africa, but it's the most prevalent in Cape Town.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely never been. I was on I remember I was on a flight somewhere, and there was just a lady sitting next to me who was a flight attendant, and she was just like, oh yeah, I'm going to go sneak off to South Africa. Like her husband didn't know, thought she was like going to go to Cleveland or whatever. And she was just sneaking off to go spend a week in South Africa because she loves it there so much. And she was just like, you should absolutely go, and was like raving about it. And I was like, okay, but can we talk about this drama though?
I was going to say, do me a favor, and I'm talking to myself too because I always forget. We get to meet wild people like that stand up. But sometimes you're tired or you're hungover or you're not in the right headspace. The next time something like that happens to you, ask that person if they'll be on your podcast anonymously. Because that's what we need in the world, is to just hear, not about what I think about free speech, but to hear what fucking Sheila is doing. She got her husband down in South
I don't know that
Africa.
she was cheating. It didn't sound like that at all.
Then he's
I was
abusive, at least emotionally, because you don't go to South Africa in secret unless you're gonna fuck somebody, or he won't let you go.
I think she just wanted to go on a vacation by herself.
I agree with you, and then get dicked down.
Well, that's what I was like, are you meeting people there or something like that? And she was just like, no.
She will, though.
Oh, all right. You think she was going to get her groove back?
Yeah, she was.
She was going to Cape Town to get her groove back?
Let's take a break on that. We'll all get our groove back after this break. We appreciate you guys listening to the wellRED Beard podcast. I'm Redbeard, and I'm joined.
And I am red sometimes. I read sometimes.
You've read before.
A little bit.
All right. And we're back.
Welcome back. Or if you skip through the ad, like a lot of people do during podcasts, welcome back immediately.
Yeah. So two things I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit about Australia, and maybe some more about South Africa, but also want to talk to you a little bit more about your sister.
Okay.
Because I know that's been kind of, I would imagine, surreal for you. Not just the fact that your sister, died young, but on top of that, it happened in your life around the same time you got, a big break.
Yeah, that shit was weird. Where it's like, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
You couldn't have scheduled this a little better, sis?
You bitch. You dead bitch.
You got to cock block this for me, really? Are we always competing? Is that necessary?
Cock block, which is it's an apparatus she owned, probably.
Yeah, because my sister was very big in the BDSM community, and and very good at it. Like, would teach classes and shit like that. She would do like all this Victorian specific.
She literally had a cock block.
Yeah, literally.
Do you know much about Victorian specific BDSM?
No.
I don't either. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, well, it would just be like she would have like a tea service, and somebody would be playing the role of the butler, who would be subservient and like have to wait on her, and then like she, if they didn't dress the table accordingly, or if they were, she would basically teach. She would teach people how to do it properly.
Yeah, I said last week we weren't supposed to talk about it, but that is what Corey and Trey are doing over there. No, that's pretty cool. Victorian BDSM.
Yeah.
It's wild when you discover that a thing gets way more niche than you ever would have imagined.
I mean, dude, she was like into so many specific different, but I think that was the thing that she really liked, because she already liked Victorian stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She always like made her own dresses and stuff like that. When me and my mom visited, she made us dress up in like Victorian era gowns, and we went to a high tea and stuff like that. But it was but yeah, dude, she was teaching classes. She started like, she was published a bunch and like teaching people how to do things properly, making sure everybody's safe, being able to communicate things that you want while people feel safe, because, it's especially how the wide range of things as far as BDSM goes. It goes from like, you saying mean things to me while we're fucking to like, getting hooks put in your back and being lifted up in front of a bunch of people. Like there's there's a wide range. And like just talking about like safety, and like she was always just wanted to make sure everybody had a good time, which I love that, because that's me too, just in a different context,
Yeah.
And so it was kind of funny though that like at her service up there, because we did two, we did one up there and one in Florida.
Up there in Seattle.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or technically Tacoma, but this is all of, because she's big in the community, so all these people that were at the service are all like, they're all fat life people.
Yeah, for freaks came out from New York. Yeah. And they have plenty of black clothing.
Would not call them freaks by any means, but because they all just look normal.
I'm allowed to say that because I'm a freak.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good. I didn't know that was your word. My bad.
It's all good. A lot of people don't.
But it was just weird to see, like this big burly dude like hugging my mom, crying while like, oh my God, my sister showed me a picture of you in a ball gag. That's so funny. That's like, it's just the juxtaposition of those two things is just so fucking funny to me.
And it's like sadness, but like you're processing the sadness, and then also, it's funny. Like sex is funny, any type. And then if you're like on the edges or the fringes of what is considered normal sex, it's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing too, is in like, it'd be like her friends talking about stories and stuff, like, because everybody wants to share stories.
What you do with
and then the stories are always very risque, and it's very hee.
They're trying to like tell it in front of your mom or whatever.
Yeah. Well,
remember that time she flogged Janice?
Yeah.
And they cut to your mom. Like, what?
Mm-hmm. Well, the funny thing is, for the longest time, my sister tried to keep it from my mom, and then, and I knew about it, and because she would like, come to the Christmas parties and stuff like that, and then be taking pictures, and then she'd start showing me and start showing me shit, and I'm like, Michelle, I have to have dinner with that guy. Don't show me what he looks like tied up like that. I don't want to see. That's not my slave. That's yours.
Right.
But for her, it was like, it's my power. I get to wield my power how I want. And whatever you guys got your context.
Like he had pre-consented to his picture being taken, and now she does whatever the fuck she wants to.
Yeah, she is in charge of him, so I get it. But that's the other thing too, is like learning, because of her being into it. It's like learning that it's way outside of just a sexual context. Context. Right. It's like a full-fledged lifestyle. And like, I probably wouldn't have understood it as much as I did, because I just always associated it with sex. I wouldn't have understood it as well as I do now if it weren't for her, for sure. It's still funny though.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And
because there would be times, she would just have because again, when it's just power dynamics, she would have somebody come over that would basically pay her to like, and she would just make them clean her house type of situation. Like this grown man would come over, she would make him put on a French maid outfit and would clean her house. And then she would go and like white glove it and like check it and stuff like that. And like, they would get in trouble if they didn't do a good job type of situation. And that was just like, yeah, bitch, you got somebody cleaning your house? Fuck
and
yeah.
They paid you.
Yeah.
That's
God damn.
She fucking Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, dude. She's fucking hell yeah. I fucking loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. It's like a beautiful memory too.
Mm-hmm.
Think about her doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
And it is funny. Like the thing about comedy, it's not the only way to do it, but a very mainstay of comedy is to introduce a line and then either cross it or come close to it. I mean, that's the basis of almost every dirty joke.
Sure.
And so there's something naturally and inherently funny about sex, and then there's definitely something naturally and inherently funny about anyone being different. I mean, that's where bullying comes from.
Sure.
Which is not cool, but like it is what like a very base sense of humor is, making fun of someone. So of course it's hilarious. I feel like that community does a good job laughing at itself, though.
Yeah, it doesn't take. I think that community and that was the thing. Like meeting through, because I always thought they before I knew those type of people, like people that were in that community, thought they would take themselves very seriously and stuff like that. But it's really not. Everybody's super fun and chill, and it's cool, and you like. And now whenever I've started talking about my sister on stage and stuff and about this, then I'll have people in the community come up to me after the shows and stuff like that, and then be like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, So yeah, it was cool for her to introduce me to that. Well, we not really being. I mean, I do enjoy power dynamics, but definitely not to the point where I would be living my life that way. Because I also thought it was bizarre how my sister came out to my mom about it.
Okay.
Because it was at a Sonny's barbecue restaurant, which I thought was an odd choice. Like, probably wait till we have the okra before you bust out the ball gag pics, But it was me, my now past grandmother, who was like dementia ridden. So my sister was like, well, she's not going to remember this. And then
brought back some good memories for her.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know what that bitch was into.
She picks up a picture. She's like, Earl?
I know that. She's not familiar with his grandfather, But she, she like kind of, and me and my mom had already kind of figured it out by then because
figured out she was a dominatrix. Is that what she was?
My sister was a switch too.
Okay.
But she was like.
Well, I meant professionally, like in terms of money. Isn't this something she did for money, or am I mistaken?
But she would teach classes and stuff like that. More. I mean, yes, that. There's so much, like some of it's money and some of it doesn't have anything to do with it. Sure. It's just like it's almost like a service, like a barter service, where like I'll dominate you if you like make my slave do a bunch of things for you because that's like what's gonna that person whatever. So there's all kinds of like you say however you want it. There's no real rules except for the rules that you put in place.
Yeah, but I thought she had like maintained a business with ads and stuff. I think I misunderstood at some point.
Yeah, I mean they have a club and stuff like that she worked out of sometimes.
What's that called? What's the address for that?
I don't know. I didn't ask for it, but it was. But yeah, it was cool to see that she was like kind of thriving in this, like, even though it was kind of unorthodox to like maybe my family or whatever, I thought it was cool because I mean, what I am doing is unorthodox to my family as well. And like, hers just happens to have like way more of a sexual connotation than mine does.
Right. Dick jokes versus dick pokes.
Yeah. There you go. Thank you.
Coined it. Put it on a T. Don't put it well, that's, I don't know. I think it's a testament to you and your family that you guys have been able to get through it and still laugh about it and all that. I know that's like a cheesy thing to say, but it's totally true.
What was weird is I wasn't able to at first.
Right.
I wasn't able to, especially because I only had my family around me, and out of respect for everyone else's feelings, like I didn't get to cope with it the way that I do, which is make fun of it.
Right. You didn't get to be a comedian.
Right. So then like I had like, because also like through my sister passing away, the HBO thing came out, and then I had an audition for JFL, an audition for Netflix. It was all like right at the same time, and it was really just like, Jesus Christ, Michelle, what the fuck, as far as timing goes. And fucking asshole. And so, but the second I got off the plane, when I got to Los Angeles, the first comedian that I saw, it was just fucking nothing but verbal vomit, me making fun of the whole situation, making all these jokes that I'm even now more comfortable making or being able to talk about it, because it was just the whole time I'd just been sitting in nothing but sadness, So I think that was the other reason why ultimately I was like, it's okay for me to go to Spain, was because it was like I haven't had any other emotion other than despair or anxiety, in the sense that I'm supposed to act like I'm not under the amount of despair that I'm in, just because, we're comedians. Nobody gives a shit what's happening to us. They only care if you do the job,
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had to go on stage, I think an hour after I found out my friend shot himself in the head. And it was like the first time I ever got booed, because I was not prepared for that. I was too young of a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you try talking about it?
No, not at all. I was too scared. Yeah.
You wouldn't have got booed, but
yeah, probably not. But it was also like an urban room I was doing too, so it was also
might have got
like
booed.
Yeah. But I just was not performing well because I wasn't in it. I was like, it's like, what the fuck's gonna happen? Like, I don't know. Yeah, I was just not there.
Yep.
I also didn't have any friends nearby or anything, so there I couldn't make any jokes, in order to deal with it. Oh, buddy, I'm okay. Thank you, though.
No, but it's tough to think about you being there. In that spot,
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I think the whole thing is like when you're in it, it's god awful, and then you just hope that it gets at least somewhat better, right? And then it does with time, and it doesn't make it like any less painful. I think it just makes the pain more manageable,
Sure.
Plus, like, my priority was my mom. Like, that's the worst. I think. I don't think there's anything worse than losing a kid, as far as like in the scale of pain goes.
I've always heard that for sure.
Yeah,
I believe it.
So,
how's she doing?
I think she's managing.
Yeah.
So, a lot of people don't get that luxury. A friend of mine's mom had her son pass away, and she got this. It's called broken heart syndrome, which is like your body physically reacting. So they thought she was having a heart attack, but it's just your heart literally is like it's quitting because it's under so much like pain, which is crazy. And then her blood pressure had to be monitored for like 3 months because they didn't know. They were like worried about her having an actual heart attack. But it's called broken heart syndrome. Is what it's called. It's so crazy because sometimes your body literally can't take it. They can't take the heat. So, luckily she hasn't had anything like that physically wrong with her or anything, So, super grateful for that, and I'm starting to see her going out and like being with other people, which is good because a lot of times it's, when you're sad as fuck, you just want to isolate because you don't want to burden anybody else. She's one of those people who doesn't want to bother anybody with it, and so I think she's doing as best as she possibly can, considering.
Your dad?
My dad's crazy, so he's different.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it's hard to. He wasn't getting off the couch before, so he's definitely not getting off the couch now. So, but I feel like he's been preparing more for this than she was, because that's his stepdaughter. It's not his, and I'm not saying that he doesn't love her the same or anything like that. It's not. I definitely don't mean it like that. But I think he was just like, he's also thinks everybody's going to die, whatever. He's also way more pessimistic and stuff like that. So I think he was like way more prepared than my mom was for this, just because he's already like, I think for him, for months, he's been saying, I think she's going to pass away,
Because you've been sick.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Okay. I hope I didn't bum everybody out. Everything's going to be okay, guys.
I mean, I'm sure that people felt your pain, but I don't think you bummed anybody out just because, again, pardon me for being cheesy, but you have such a strong spirit about it. You know what I mean? And I mean that. Because, I know people listening right now have gone through a bunch of shit, you can laugh about it eventually. It takes a lot of time, You can not move on, but like, compartmentalize it, put it in its place. What's the right phrase? I guess,
I think it's more, for me, I think it's more of it helps accepting. Like, that's a lot of times why I get not up in arms, but I get miffed when people are like, you can't joke about things, because that specifically is how I cope with them.
You gotta joke about things.
Yeah, it's that Stanhope bit where he's like, making fun of something. You mean making something dark, light, etc., etc. Like, that's the part of making fun that I think is really brilliant. A lot of people seem to forget the power that has. Is me being able to joke about it, and it could be something about myself. It could be something like death, or a myriad of things, but being able to get to the point where you can laugh about something, like for instance, like I have a rough childhood with my dad. A lot of your listeners already know about it. We've talked about it. Anybody that's listened to the Into the Biscuit episode, we've talked about it extensively on there.
Fist fought him.
Yeah. We did fist fight him. But it was, for the longest time, I wanted to joke about it, but I was not emotionally prepared to do that. So then I would just bomb on stage talking about it. And then once you get to a point where you can accept it, it's not just a thing that's helping you cope. It's also like, it's you understanding and accepting and then being able to make it funny. And like,
my brother.
Yeah, it's the same. I think it just takes. So I hate when that kind of criticism comes, because it's like, I don't think you understand how helpful humor is, especially about things that are dark and, touchy.
Right. Well, I mean, first of all, yes, I agree. And second of all, I think that's a great.
Why are you like whispering all of a sudden?
I don't know.
It got real quiet storm in here. You got very like.
You know what I think it is? The tequila.
Oh, is that what it is?
The agave wore off, and the alcohol is still present.
Okay, fair enough.
It could be that. You know what it could also be? You talking about your mother mourning the loss of a daughter. It could have had an effect on me physically, Carmen.
Fair enough.
Sorry, I'm just trying.
Fair enough. I'm just saying, pain sucks, and it's gonna be okay. Is all I'm saying. Pain sucks, and it's gonna be okay.
Sure. Well, no, I was just saying, I think that's a good stopping point. As good as any. We're not gonna go back to international travel.
No.
Hooking up with girls on beaches and stuff like that. Well, we could. I've got stories, guys. Not gonna say that it didn't happen. Well, anyway, I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks everybody for listening to the wellRED.
Thank you guys.
Show. And we'll be back next week. And I think you'll be here again.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. And it'll be way more lighthearted.
Yes. We promise.
We promise.
Thank you all for listening to the wellRED Beard. Sorry you missed Corey and Trey, but they ain't here. So tune in next week if you like listening to me. Thank you, God bless you, and fuck the queen. Fuck the queen.